Hello and welcome to this episode of Demystified as we explore home cooking in the modern world. I'm Linda and I'm here with my friend Paul.
Intro take two. You've got to tell them if we're going to play blooper reels.
Oh, we're not going to ever play those blooper reels. My goodness, how are you, Paul?
I'm all right. You?
Well, recovering. That was a bit embarrassing. Yeah, never mind. It'll never see the light of day.
Yeah.
So no. And
it's funny though.
No, it's funny to us.
You try to get right into it. You're all focused, and you just dive right in, and then just totally.
With all the recent technical bloops that we've had, it's a checklist now of laptop charge, yes. Office phone on do not disturb, yes. Mobile phone on done, yes.
Yeah.
Done. Cough medicine taken, done. Everything, yes. Everyone's under control, done. Yeah. And then I stuff it up go through all that, and then I stuff it up. So anyway. So how are you? You've been cooking this week.
A little bit of cooking. Yeah.
It's been good. We've been enjoying it. But something you touched on, and I thought,
this is about.
Oh yes, you do. Yeah. And it's something that I thought was really relevant because I do listen to what you say. I know you don't think I do, but I do.
You might listen, but you're not hearing.
I try using my ears, but I thought it's coming up to a crazy entertaining period for us. And I thought, well, I need to start planning.
Oh, wow. Wow, this is more or less than
because I'm I'm out of control everywhere else. So I do need to plan this because it'll take me a while.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking I really need to, first of all, look at my supplies and just get some basic supplies that cover off on some, just basics.
Yeah.
So that if something happens and I suddenly want to whip up, I sound like I know what I'm doing because
that's how you cook.
I'll
just whip something up.
I'll just follow it to a T and then ask you for help when it doesn't work. But I just thought I need to check on my oils, salt, vinegar.
Oh, yeah.
And so I thought this leads into something we talked about.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, this is a good one. You said we could talk. I've got more vinegars than oils. And I thought, I know we've touched on this probably way back in the very early days, but I think it's a really good time to revisit because I know that it's coming up in the northern hemisphere of North America. It's coming up to Thanksgiving and there's a lot of food and dressings.
Well, I did learn the other day that Canadians have already had their Thanksgiving.
Oh, have they?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know it either.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They had their Thanksgiving last weekend.
Okay.
And then the US has it in mid to late November, I think.
26th, was it? Oh, I don't know. We don't. We're good.
November.
That's November. And across parts of Europe, it's coming up for still a lot of eating. And even though it's now summer here, we're getting into summer, which is barbecue time, salad time,
vinegars.
Everything. But vinegars all year round.
All year round.
So I'm going to stop babbling and I'm going to hand the microphone to you.
Right.
Oh, and now you go silent.
No. Well, it's funny actually because I did a recipe for a colleague of mine today who's going to do some cooking because I'm going overseas. And I said to him, like, why don't you try this? And what I was actually suggesting to him was to do salt and vinegar roast potatoes. Not knowing that we're going to talk about this, but we may as well start at sort of the start with vinegars. So vinegars have different acidity percentages, essentially. Some are more acidic than others. So let's say white vinegar, just on standard white vinegar you get off the shelf at a supermarket, but it's quite high in acid. So therefore sometimes not the best for cooking. Okay, so I use my white vinegar for cleaning. But if I'm doing salt and vinegar roast potatoes, I use it for that. I'd use it for poached eggs.
Okay.
And for very little else. So you just sort of standard white vinegar, although you can use it for, they're not
personal taste. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. But when you branch out and find more vinegars, you'll find that there's refinement in different types of vinegars, and that will give you, like, everyone knows to a degree, I'm probably assuming here, but a lot of people will have had the experience of balsamic vinegar and olive oil on a piece of bread.
Yes.
At a restaurant, bread tasting, at an olive oil tasting, and they do it.
Or over a salad.
Mm. And so that acidic level of balsamic vinegar and the taste of balsamic vinegar is quite specific. And it's very, very different to, let's say, a white wine vinegar. So, as I said, I have a range of different vinegars in my cupboard, and I pick the vinegar that I think best works for whatever the dishes that I'm cooking. So the other night I did a stir fry, for want of a better term. Now my stir fry was very simple, like 2 ingredients. Like this was chicken and asparagus. That was it. Like obviously some sauces and stuff like that. But in that scenario, rice vinegar I used. I keep white vinegar, apple cider vinegar, rice vinegar, champagne vinegar, tarragon vinegar, red wine vinegar, white wine vinegar, white balsamic, normal balsamic, aged balsamic. But the ones that are my go-to, and champagne vinegar.
You did mention that.
Yeah, sorry. But my go-tos are red wine vinegar. I use a lot for cooking, so not so much for salad dressings because it's a bit acidic. Spanish, what do they call it? Jerez vinegar. Or you have that as well. I use that quite often for salad dressings because it doesn't seem to be as acidic. But it also depends on what quality you buy. So good quality vinegars, and the ones that you pay a bit more for, don't have that same harshness about them.
Mm-hmm.
So tarragon vinegar is a favourite of mine because it goes really well with eggs. So you want to do a cheats hollandaise where you're not making egg reduction. Just grab the tarragon vinegar and chuck that in with your egg yolks and whip them up and add your butter. Because generally when you're making a hollandaise sauce, you would have shallots, white wine vinegar, peppercorns, and you would reduce with tarragon, then you would reduce that down. It gives you like a tarragon flavoured vinegar.
You're looking at me like that's what I actually do.
Whereas I've actually just got tarragon, and tarragon vinegar is really good on fish as well. And so cooking with your vinegar is really important. So whenever I do any sort of braise, casserole, pot roast, even stir fry, anything like that, I'm always adding vinegar to cook with because it enhances the flavour. So if I give you the example of what I cooked the other night, like it was chicken and I marinated the chicken in like ginger, a little bit of sesame oil, oyster sauce, soy sauce, right? Just sort of standard. I don't want to say Chinese fare, but let's just call it that. When I went to cook my chicken, I actually add some rice vinegar to a wok as well. Then all I find it does is it just helps clean up the flavours a bit. It helps pick them up a little bit as well. So it works as a seasoning, but also cleans everything up a little bit. So oyster sauce has got quite a bit of sugar in it. So yeah, I use it to counter sugar, number one, and I also use it to enhance flavour. So yeah, vinegars are like really, really, I think, as important to me as salt is.
Wow.
I
know. No, I'm trying to take it all in and think how I'm going to have to. I want to put these into the notes because
let's say Christmas, right, coming up, and we know a lot of people in the Southern Hemisphere, let's talk Australia, will get seafood Christmases, right? One of the most sort of famous dressings to put on your oysters is what's called mignonette, right? And it's essentially very finely diced shallots, cracked black pepper, and red wine vinegar, and that's it. And you just spoon that over your oysters. It's quite delicious, right? Mm. But that's very dependent on having really good wine vinegar, right? So you buy these nice oysters. Now, if you ask me, it's the wrong time of year to buy oysters, but that's another story. So really good red wine vinegar. If you want to do, like I say, you're doing, I imagine, and I'm making a total guess here, but you're going to do some sort of pork. Christmas.
Why would you think that?
But like if you want to do some, salt and vinegar roast potatoes, the best way to do it is like whatever potatoes you do, it doesn't matter. You peel them, cut them, put them in a pot. Now you can steam them, but let's say for this scenario, I actually like to blanch them or boil them and fill that pot 75% with cold water and the other 25% you put white vinegar. Then you cook your potatoes in white vinegar. Well, diluted white vinegar, but that penetrates the potatoes as they cook. And then you pull them out, drain them, and go about your regular roasting process, and not lots of salt. And you can also give them a hit of vinegar just when they come out of the oven as well. And you've got salt and vinegar roast potatoes. So you've got to have white vinegar for that. I always have roast duck eggs on Boxing Day.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got to have more white vinegar for that. And I'll probably make although this year we're traveling, so I might not. But generally I'll make a hollandaise, so I never tarry in vinegar for that. I'll make a bolognese sauce for spag bowl, which is a thing that everyone does here once a week. Like most homes, or, not everyone, but a lot of people do.
That's a good go-to.
Yeah, it's an easy go-to. You've got to have vinegar in your sauce. Gotta. Absolute must. But any braise, like a beef bourguignon, like any heavy braise, vinegar will just lighten it up. A tagine vinegar, absolutely. Why do you think they put preserved lemons in tagines?
Ah, I thought for the flavour. Okay.
Yeah, well, it's for the flavour, but what sort of flavour are you getting? You're getting the acidity from the preserved lemons, yeah. But that's why. So if you don't have preserved lemons, which not everyone does on hand, you can always substitute a little bit of vinegar. Now, lemon and vinegar don't necessarily, if you don't have vinegar, lemon doesn't always necessarily work. So in the case of trying to poach an egg, don't try and poach an egg in acidulated water done with lemon. Just doesn't work. Doesn't set the white like vinegar does. But generally lemon juice can work as well. Even on like beef bourguignon, like it will still work. Now it might not be as right on it as like a red wine vinegar going in there. But yeah, always cooking with your vinegar. Absolutely. And when you get the opportunity to reduce it down, that's even better. So in this scenario that I was doing my wok cooking, I actually just drizzled the vinegar around the edge of the wok so it evaporated pretty quickly. There is quite often what you see, so in sauces, it's in a lot of sauces. So you go to a restaurant and you'll have a nice steak with a nice red wine sauce or a jus or whatever. Quite often they'll have vinegar in them, and it's because they've been cooked for so long and they're so concentrated that you need some sort of acid in there to actually make them, not that they're not palatable, but just to sort of temper that richness. So and I don't know how common it is these days, but what we used to do is add to our sauces what's called a gastric. And a gastric is 50% caster sugar and 50% vinegar. Let's say 100 grams caster sugar, 100 grams of vinegar. And you put those two things in a pot and you bring it to the boil and you reduce it by quite a lot until it's quite syrupy. And then you add that to your sauce. So it doesn't impact on the colour of the sauce at all. Mm-hmm. We used to do it with red wine vinegar, but it doesn't impact on the colour of the sauce, and it gives that acid note to the sauce, which you often need.
Okay.
So yeah, and like I say, I mean, they're not expensive either, but I think there's lots of different ones for different purposes. But they're my go-tos that I have to have. I feel kind of lost in the kitchen if I don't have some sort of vinegar component or acid component. Doesn't seem to work for me. I don't know what it is. Yeah, so I think if you were to just get a group of, let's say, half a dozen, okay, I think you have to have white vinegar, because it's a good all-purpose, but don't make salad dressings with it. Red wine vinegar, white wine vinegar, balsamic vinegar, apple cider vinegar, and you could probably get away with 5.
I'd probably replace the balsamic with one of the tarragon or champagne, just something a little bit lighter.
But I think coming into tomato season here, coming into summer, I think like balsamic's good to have. Mm. It's a different flavour, right? It's like,
it's very different. Yeah.
And if you have the opportunity to ever one day buy proper aged balsamic vinegar, not like those crappy balsamic glazes, the pre-done glazes that they sell at the supermarkets. And if you want to know how to make them, they're simple. It's actually just vinegar and sugar. It's a gastric, and it's reduced down, but they use brown sugar. So if you want to make your own balsamic glaze, it's very circa 1990s, but you just put a volume of balsamic vinegar in a pot, whatever it might be, 200 mils, and then the same volume in brown sugar. Bring it to the boil and let it reduce until it's syrupy. That's it. That's what you're paying $15 for in a tiny little bottle of balsamic glaze when you could have got brown sugar for $1 and balsamic vinegar for $3.
Okay.
But yeah, balsamic vinegar, and you could even do you could probably, and it probably doesn't fit into vinegars, but it's close, is verjuice.
Yeah, I use a lot of verjuice. Yeah.
So that it's not as acidic.
No.
You can actually just have verjuice as it stands. But yeah, like even when you might be doing poached pears in, let's say, red wine or white wine or something already acidic. Because you're adding sugar, sometimes you lose a bit of the acidity from the wine and you have to add a little bit of vinegar.
Okay.
So yeah, it kind of works everywhere. A little bit of vinegar in your pastry, you're making a short crust pastry. So rather than so sometimes a short crust pastry will just be butter. You crumble butter into flour until it's sandy. You add a couple of egg yolks, and then your recipe generally will always say add a couple of tablespoons or teaspoons of cold water. Try vinegar.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's where your white vinegar comes into play, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to use Italian vinegar because I'm going to do anything. So, yeah, but I think 5 or 6 vinegars and you cover all the bases. It's important too when you're doing like a vinaigrette, not necessarily making a mayonnaise, which is sort of emulsion. So egg yolks, vinegar, oil, but you're doing a vinaigrette. Vinaigrettes can still have that creamy thickness, and that more so comes down to the mustard that you use versus the oil or anything else. But be careful which vinegars you pair with extra virgin olive oil because they don't all work.
How would you know? Taste a bit beforehand?
Yeah.
Mix a little bit beforehand?
Mix a little bit beforehand. And for a vinaigrette, let's say you don't do a vinaigrette with a mustard. So the general quantities for a vinaigrette is, let's say, 25% vinegar to 75% oil. That's about general. But again, it depends on the acidity of your vinegar that you're using. So I like to do my vinaigrettes with mustard in them because mustard's an emulsifier. So mustard helps oil thicken.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember back in the day, I'd get the bowl and the whisk out now and do that. But I remember back in the day, we used to have jars. Mum would make vinaigrettes.
Yeah, we used to
jars.
in jars
Everyone
and then
used to do it.
shake
It's
it
a brilliant
up.
way to do it, right? Good way to
Yeah.
whip cream too, if you've ever had whipped cream. Just stick it in a jar and shake it up out of it. It's much quicker. If you're doing scones or something like that, it takes seconds. But a teaspoon of, I'd take, let's say 2 teaspoons of mustard in a jar, whether it be seeded or Dijon or French or whatever. Generally, hot English is a bit hot. But all of those mustards are emulsifiers, and you can just, your vinegar straight in, your oil straight in, and just shake it. And it'll thicken up. Now, it won't thicken up like a mayonnaise, but it will thicken up only because of the mustard. But if you want a vinaigrette, and that would just be vinegar and oil. What's always good for those is if you add very finely diced shallot or something like that. Maybe not raw garlic, but very finely diced shallot works quite well. And pit thyme or chopped thyme or hard herbs will work quite well with that as well. Parsley and soft herbs, you're really not going to get the impact from. And if you put basil or something like that, it's just going to discolour. So a simple vinaigrette would be 1 very finely chopped shallot, a teaspoon of very finely diced chopped thyme, red wine vinegar, a 1/4 teaspoon of sugar. Sugar is really important to have, so caster sugar. If your vinegar is too acidic, you can just balance it out with a little bit of caster sugar, and then hit it with some oil and just whisk it up and chuck that on some salad leaves. Delicious. So you can't live without it. Rice vinegar, that's the one I want you to add. Actually, rice vinegar. I think you should have rice vinegar because you need rice vinegar to make sushi, nori, and all sorts of stuff.
Okay. And then the last little part of that is the herbs you just mentioned, because I know you are an avid gardener.
Yes. Just built a garden bed, actually.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Which are the sort of go-to herb? I know I think I've got a good stab, but there'll be thyme in there.
Yeah. I'd say
and sage.
In your garden. Yeah, sage is a funny one. I was watching a documentary where Phil Jackson, who was the very famous basketball coach of the Chicago Bulls and the LA Lakers have won multiple NBA championships, used to burn sage leaves at practices to calm the players down and stuff like that, because apparently it's like somehow related to marijuana. I don't know if any of that's true. Sage is very specific. So I like sage because I like the plant, but it's not something that you're using like all the time, or not that I use all the time. I think if you don't have rosemary, you're mad. Like you just have that.
Of course, like a herb, like a weed in most places, yeah.
So rosemary, thyme, I've come at not only just sort of, what do they call it, common thyme, but I like lemon thyme as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think flat loaf parsley, because you can just chop it back and it comes back all the time. Mint, because you can keep it in a dingy dark corner, like it just goes forever. Like, how else do you make mint sauce for your lamb?
Well, I have apple mint, and that grows like, that's fine. Yeah.
So rosemary, thyme, lemon thyme, parsley, mint, sage, yeah, you can. But I think if you just did those 5, like, that's a pretty good start. Basil, when it's in season, can't be beat. Right? You just can't beat.
Do you like pesto?
Yeah, but I mean, like, not just for pesto. Like, I'll put basil on fish, I'll put basil on chicken, I'll put basil on meat, everything. Like, in pasta, like, everything. Basil's delicious. Fresh oregano is another one. It's kind of like sage, very particular use. Very, very particular. So, but grow what you want. I don't care.
No, but it's limited space.
Yeah, they're the ones that I think are their go-tos. And try and get continental parsley, flat leaf parsley. It's much better. It's got those proper grassier flavours versus the curly parsley.
It's really easy to grow too.
Yeah, really easy to grow. And be careful if you plant things like Vietnamese mint. That's a particular one. Vietnamese mint. I think they call it holy mint. Because when that takes off, that'll take over your entire garden and kill everything else. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that is a problem.
Pernicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I've got, what else do I have? I have lemon balm, I have lemon verbena. But you see, even in the stuff that I grow, I like to have the acid. I've got lemon thyme, lemon balm, lemon verbena, lemons, mandarins, and a crap ton of vinegars. So like, I've obviously got this, I don't know.
Tell us, I don't know, on my couch. Yeah. Tell me all about it.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah, I think half a dozen vinegars will cover almost everything. And they're cheap. That's the other good thing too. They're not expensive. And like I said to you, I have no flavoured oils in my house. No. I have 2 oils. I have extra virgin olive oil and I have vegetable oil. That's it. And I make everything out of those.
Well, I'm going to put the list of the vinegars, the big list at the beginning, and the top 5, 6 will be the ones that you later mentioned.
Yeah, but that's what I prefer.
No, this is just for the show notes. Yes. This, I'll actually write them down before I post the podcast. Yeah. And also just list the herbs. It helps people when they're out buying, looking for little things to put in their garden, squeeze it in between other things.
And some of the vinegars, if you are shopping around for vinegars, like I say, it's one of those things you pay for what you get to a degree. So some of the Spanish ones are quite expensive, but you don't need a lot of them. They'll last you quite a long time. And of course they keep, right? So, but the better ones will have sort of almost like an acidic percentage on the label. So you can have a look. And it'll give you, until you get a baseline, you don't really understand it, but it'll give you an idea of how acidic they will be.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. It's kind of like an alcohol volume percentage.
Well, do you just go to a specialty shop or do you just try them wherever you can find them?
Yeah, I tend to, and not to poo-poo supermarkets, but unless I'm buying white vinegar, like I get all my other vinegars at food shops. Like I know which brands I like. Mm-hmm. So I buy Italian balsamic and I buy Italian red wine vinegar. And those 2 are Italian. My champagne, white wine, tarragon are French. Mm-hmm. My rice vinegar is Chinese. So I'm a little bit picky.
Yeah.
But it's like any ingredient, you get what you pay for. But a good rice vinegar at a specialty Asian grocer will be $5 for half a litre or 750 mils, and a crap one will be $2. Like, just go for the extra $3. And it's the same with, I only think of it because I bought it the other day, because I ran out. It was cooking wine, chassis cooking wine. The difference between a good and a bad is like $3, $4. Okay. Like, so, and they keep, so yeah, it's a Johnny Walker versus a Johnny Walker Blue, but the price difference isn't as big.
Yeah, thank goodness for that.
That's sort of, that's my vinegar obsession, apparently.
It's always becoming clear. Yeah. I know. Who knew?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
Well, and is that helpful? But...
No, I think it always is.
Yeah.
Not exactly cooking with steam, but certainly helping us best display the food that we have cooked in a variety of ways.
And malt vinegar too. That's another one I didn't mention. So for those English people out there, malt vinegar is a must for your fish and chips. But like I said, I think I said in one of the other podcasts, get a misting spray bowl. And rather than dip your fish and chips, mist vinegar over them. And you can do the same thing when you're roasting your potatoes if you mist the vinegar over. Get one of those things, they're cool. While your lambs on the rotisserie over the barbecue, mist over your vinegar. Ugh.
No, excellent. Well, thank you very much for that, for those helpful tips.
Enough rubbing
Vinegars.
on.
And until next time, happy cooking, everybody.
Bad
I know.
close, bad open. You're all over the shop.
Seriously, I've got to.
So I'm actually going to put Linda in it now. So I'm away for the next 2 weeks. So Linda will be doing the podcast by herself.
No one wants to hear that. Oh my goodness, no one wants to hear that. But we will. I have got a couple of ideas.
There we go.
So we'll see what happens. It's just hard getting people to talk about what they do.
Yes.
In front of a microphone. It's like they clam up. It's like, I need to think about it. They can't get anyone. It's really difficult. They all clam up and, I need to think about it. I need to practice it. I need to do my hair. So it's not recorded. It's not filmed. It's just recorded. But no, it's been difficult. But anyway, we have some
shout
ideas.
Out, just before we go, I know I'm running on, but shout out to Gavin.
Oh, yes, that was a lovely email Gav from Canada, right?
Gav from, I'm just going to make sure I know where he's from.
That was very pleasing to get some feedback and
from Toronto and Southampton, Ontario, Canada. So thank you, Gavin. Very kind.
Yes, it was very nice. It lifted our day when we got that email.
It lifted your day because you're always such a crappy mood.
Oh, yeah, I was, wasn't I? But anyway, enough of that.
Enough.
Happy cooking, everybody. Until next time, take care. Bye. Thanks for listening to this podcast as we explore home cooking in a modern world. We'd love you to subscribe, and for more information, please go to our website, cookingwithsteam.com.